Thank you very much. As you said, I'm giving this talk on behalf of Mogens Hovmøller, who is postdoc scientist in the Global Loss Reference Center in Denmark. He had acute surgery 2 weeks ago for a kidney stone, which is very painful, and he will have another surgery next Monday. But I Skyped with him yesterday, and he is okay, and he has approved the presentation I'm going to give here. So Mehran, he was a PhD student of Comas Ödikada in Syria, where he stayed up to 2011, and then when the problems increased in Syria, he finished his PhD in Iran, and now he has been joining us for 2 years, and he is the main driver for the stem rust pathotyping work in our lab. And he has by far the most of the work I'll present here. So you can see there's a number of co-authors on the paper. Kumar Nasari has also been very, very helpful in establishing the stem rust work in our lab. He has been visiting us several times in 2011 and 12 and stayed with us for several months to install the facilities and to get things running so we could have a flying start. You can also see that Les Sabo is on as a co-author, so he has helped us in applying his qPCR diagnostic tool for UD99 races. And then Anne-Marie Justersen is the head of the molecular lab at the Global Reference Center. And then, of course, David, as you just heard, has been facilitating much of the sampling. So the outline, well, I will, inspired by Gene Miles, I'll insert a slide with the objective and the role of the race phenotyping we are doing. And I'll briefly comment on the sampling methodology, and then report about the significant new races and virulences we have seen, and then come with some final conclusions. So, well, the ultimate goal for us is to detect new pathogen variability of relevance for what is grown on the field. And of course, since we get samples from all over the world, we cannot accommodate to include wheat germplasm from all over the world. So our main role at the Global Loss Reference Center is to detect pathogen variability. And then, of course, we can take in some samples of germplasm from different countries if needed in certain cases. And then, of course, also a main aim is to distribute the results and even to hand over cultures of important races from areas where they have come from. So the tools we're using a standard set of differentials plus a number of additional supplementary differentials of wheat varieties. And then, as also Gene mentioned, it's very important to have consistent experimental conditions, and you really need to explore how your own system is working. So you need to play around with the temperature and light and humidity to get the optimal conditions under your experimental condition. And then, as I just mentioned, we also applied the molecular tools, which is assisting us in assigning the appropriate lineages of the races. And finally, we are also utilizing our huge stock collection of different races, spore samples, so we can really be sure that when we report a new race, we can really go back and confirm and compare to what we had in the past. So the sampling, you can see here, this is the number of samples that we have received in between 2011 and 2014. The green bar reflects the number of recovered single spore or single pustule isolates, in total almost 400. There's a red bar giving the number of samples which were not alive when we received them, so they failed. It's about 1/3 or slightly less. And then finally, there are some, it says non-inoculated. It may happen that we get huge number of samples from the same field or maybe from the same trial. And in that case, we really do prioritize because we cannot accommodate everything at any time. But in general, we have a very good recovery rate, as you can see. Here you see Mehran, and all these things here is, of course, taking place in secure wheat rust quarantine facilities. So the cabins you see here, they are supplied by filtered air, so we can avoid contamination of other pathogens like powdery mildews, and we can keep in the cultures we work with. You may wonder that it does not look really like seedlings that Mehran is having here. In fact, it is some Egyptian cultivars. And the first go for this isolate failed, so in fact he then re-inoculated at the second stage, and in fact he had very good scorings here at the 3 or 4 leaf stage. So it may happen. What you see here is a table showing the number of isolates which has then been subject to race typing. You can see there's a total of 18 countries, mainly from Africa and Asia. There are 3 European countries, and representing very few samples. And you can see that the number of samples has increased steadily over the years. So in total, 155 of these single pustule isolates have now been patotyped and confirmed. So I'm going to report about 2 new TMP virulent races in the UD99 race group. This picture here is showing some of the selected wheat lines and how they look like when you put an isolate of the UD99 race. And what I've highlighted here is the response of 3 different plants of 3 different seed sources, 2 varieties of TMP resistance. And you can see the intermediate or low infection type, suggesting that the pathogen is avirulent. This is a typical TTK-SK UD99. So what happened? Well, in May 2014, we had samples from Egypt for the first time, and some of them looked like this. This was at a time when there was no report previously about UD99 in Egypt, so we were quite surprised to see this reaction here. Not only was it UD99, it also was virulent on TMP. So, I discussed with Mehran and said, I think we should try to confirm this. So please take single pustule isolates from SR31 and from TMP. He did that and raised that and multiplied those and repeated the tests and got exactly the same thing. So really confirming that it was not just due to isolate contamination, because if we have isolate contamination, you can easily have many, many new races. So this happened over the summer of 2014. And we then started to discuss what this is maybe a significant new finding. Then also we saw another new race, which was quite similar, except that it also had, this was not from Egypt, but another new race which also in addition had virulence for SR24. So the line to the left, you are left, I think, yeah, was also, it's not virulent here, but it was virulent on that isolate, which came from Kenya. So this shows that we had 2 new TMP virulent races within the UD99 race group. And this is, in fact, just now come out in plant disease. And you can see a whole range of collaborators, again, reflecting the huge collaboration we have between a big number of people from different parts of the world. And this is, I think it's available as first look already now. So let's then look at the distribution of these races. David has already shown something similar here. What we found in 2011 and 12 was 5 different races within the UD99 group. One was equivalent to SR21, one variant. Another had additional valence for SR24. This is the light blue. And then another race combining the two. And finally, what we believe is the original UD99, which lacked the valence for SR31. So those 5 here were found. Each dot here represents one finding in one country. So it's not giving anything about the frequencies, but just that it has been found. So this is really confirming what we knew already. So, so this is the situation then in 2013 and 14. The green and the blue, the races indicated by green and blue are the new ones which were detected in 2014. And you can see that the TK with additional valence for TMP was found in 4 countries here: Egypt, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. And whereas the most advanced of these races, TT, was only found in Kenya. And then all isolates here, we then run the qPCR test developed by Les Sabo in Minnesota. And all the suspect UD99 isolates were positive, whereas all the non-UD99 isolates were negative. So a kind of independent confirmation that we had a new race within the UD99 lineage. You will hear more about the Egyptian history in the next talk, so I will not comment more on that. Then some few words about the Diggerloo race we just heard about. This is the publication which came out earlier this year. Again, as David mentioned, with a great number of people. And so you can see here, I've here compared the reaction compared to UD99. So the white arrows here indicate lines in the standard differential set which are different or which differ between the 2 races. So in this case here, there are 5. So it's clearly different. And this race here was also valent on TMP. So that's the only link you can say. And this was the one which caused these epidemics in Ethiopia. You can see we have found 3 variants of this race. One which has additional valence for SR24, found in Egypt, and one which is equivalent on SR21. Yeah, indicated by these are the 2 lines where they differ. So then we have applied weights which are expected to carry SR25 on isolates of this race. And so far, we've not finished the tests, but so far the isolates we have tested from Ethiopia, they are low on SR25 here, shown by Morocco LR19, whereas isolates from other places tend to be high on SR25. In Iran, it was the opposite up to 2010, where Mehran did his PhD work. So at that time, they didn't have the SR25 valence in Iran, but since 2010, we have had it. So, so based on, well, I'm not going into detail with this because this is part of the publication, but according to what the Minnesota group did on the genotyping using the SNP chip, is that the Ethiopian races were subdivided into 4 groups, and there were several multilocus genotypes within the group, so there was a considerable variability, and also that the European isolates or races here were clearly different from what we found in Ethiopia. Maybe just a few comments on the European situation, because in 2013, for the first time in maybe 50 years, we had widespread occurrence of stem rust mainly in Germany, and this was investigated further by the Julius Kühn Institute in Berlin by Kerstin Flatt, in fact, who is also here. And we had few of those samples, and the other samples were sent to Minnesota, and Kerstin had also seeds from the Minnesota lab. So we only had few of those isolates, and we detected the same race here, whereas Kerstin also has seen other variants of this race in Germany, and also the Minnesota group has done that, and that will be published in the near future. Kerstin also told me this morning that, in fact, she then applied these races to German wheats, both in the field and in the lab. And only about 10% of the German wheats were resistant to this group of races, which, of course, is maybe a concern. But I guess it's due to that the stem rust has been absent for Europe for 50 or 60 years. So, in fact, breeders have not really had the opportunity to select for stem rust resistance. So let me sum up. We have found 2 new races within a UD99 race group that were detected in East Africa in 2014. We had 3 UD99 races in Egypt. And then we have seen non-UD99 races also carrying TMP virulence in European countries, in Germany mainly. And then in Denmark, we had 2 isolates from one location on the beach, the southern beach, just 30 kilometers north of Germany. And in 2014, we had 1 single sample from an island in Sweden, and again with the same race. But again, as David pointed out, this Diggerloo race it has been present in the Middle East for a number of years, and we observed it here in Azerbaijan, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Ethiopia, Lebanon, Sudan, and Turkey. And then finally, concerning the SR25, it appears that we have quite many of the isolates of this race also carry virulence for SR25. So I guess that we can say that focus on stem rust resistance breeding should really go beyond UD99, and I think that we are all in this room aware of this. So finally, of course, I would like to thank my team in Denmark, see here, and you can also see on the spreadsheet here the whole range of people who have really submitted samples, which we are grateful. So without their help and support, we would not be able to put this together. And then, of course, I will say that it's my 3rd time in Australia. It's nice to go back and enjoy some of the Danish architecture. Okay, with these words, I will stop.